Awesome. I'm gonna give it a few minutes and but my icebreaker,
Oop, I'm
Zach and
going.
Chaz, that you guys wanted to know. Um, in the chat, I want everyone to say how much money your family spent on fireworks for the 4th of July.
What?
We don't like wildfires.
So this is why I said it, because I wanted to talk about this because I'm from California. So each year me and Sean are like, oh, we're not gonna go big. We're only gonna buy like a couple fireworks, and then I send my husband to the store without me and we get a couple fireworks, and it's so much fun because like compared to California, we get to like blow so much stuff up here.
Zero fireworks in my neighborhood.
Zero.
High fire danger, illegal, you know.
Yeah, Chaz will burn a couple of blocks of houses down if there's any sort of going on there. And then
Derek, 350.
350,
Oh, damn.
350. Okay. That's a good number. That's a good number. 350. So Sean spent, he said 500.
so that's
Wow.
I don't know if I really believe him. And yeah, $0, is that bad? No, I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, that's what I spent. I didn't want to burn down the whole neighborhood. I'm in insurance, so
Well, I mean, so Sean's best friend lives in California, and last 4th of July, his neighbor did fireworks and then put them in their trash can without like hosing them down properly. And the trash can caught fire and then burned like the whole side of his house. And I know that he is still dealing with insurance to get everything repaired because it like messed up something with the interior, all these things that I don't understand. But it's been a battle for him from fireworks.
I spent
So
yeah.
zero because it's torture for my dogs. And my dog has very sensitive ears, so she's not too keen on the fireworks as well.
She's
But
getting up behind you.
this little pug, she was like, "You said
Oh.
fireworks, I gotta run." Yeah.
so we are so fortunate that like our dogs when they're puppies, we play like firework noises and gunshot sounds on like the Alexas super loud. So fireworks are going off and our dogs just like do not
Hey
care. It's
Mel,
amazing.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're live.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Hey,
Icebreaker,
Jeff.
Hi
we're
guys.
waiting for a couple we're waiting till 8:05. So the
Okay,
icebreaker that I was
got you.
asking everyone is how much money did you spend on fireworks? Because it was kind of a trick question because I knew Zach and Chaz spent zero.
I
And I
got
wanted to
you.
talk
I thought
about
you guys were chit-chatting. I joined late. My bad.
and then I wanted to kind of brag about how since we moved from California, we got to spend a lot of money and blow stuff up because it's fun. It's and our kids love it. Like so and then I was telling Emily, so the grown adult men, I guess you could say, not including my husband, the other men have like Roman candle fights. It's insane. I do not recommend. But like there was like a video of them all lighting it and then they were shooting each other with them. And then yeah, a couple of them got burned. But it was pretty fun. It was a good 4th of July.
Yeah, I got in trouble during I think Zach and I when we were little, I was shooting fireworks or throwing fireballs at him, and our mom found holes in Zach's clothes in the laundry and wanted to know where the holes came from.
We were at the
So yeah.
beach and we did a beach bonfire, and then that involved or evolved to taking paper bags and crumpling them up, putting them on sticks, and lighting them on fire, and then throwing them at each other. And yeah, we got like the next day, our mom was doing laundry, and I'd burnt holes in a bunch of stuff. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's fun.
fun. Well, I'm glad that everyone had a happy, safe, good 4th of July. It's now 8:05, so I'm going to jump right into it. Good evening, everyone. My name's Mel. I'm here with Kennel Connection. We're hosting our first Pet Care Connection webinar. I'm also the owner of Bark and Bone, which is a grooming salon, retail store, and mobile grooming in Carmel, Indiana. I'm super excited about tonight's webinar because I'm really close with Zach and Chaz. It's one of the topics that I really like to talk about a lot. I see it a lot on the Facebook groups. It's one of those things that I feel like people don't think about till something happens. So it's one of those common misconceptions of, oh, it's not going to happen to me. You know, you only read about it. I'm okay. So for those who do not know, Zach and Chaz own Pet Business Insurance. They've become one of the leading insurance providers in the industry, specializing on the pet care industry. So, Zach, Chaz, can you guys take turns? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to the pet industry?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm Zach, and I've been in insurance now for 21 years. I'm second generation insurance agent, so I got here. I got it from my mama, and yeah, about 11 years ago, decided to pivot the agency and start focusing on pet related businesses. It was a lot more fun to work with people who are working with pets all day, every day, than let's say like a general contractor. And it's been great. We've really evolved in the space and been able to help and educate a lot of business owners.
Cool. I'm Chaz Grunder. I'm kind of the director of operations and growth at Pet Business Insurance, and joined the team. I've only been on the team for about 2 years. My background was kind of in retail operations. So when we talk about claims nightmares and things like that, I've seen it all in person. From everything from cars driving through front of the stores to, somebody stopping a shoplifter and getting stabbed to somebody slipping on a grape and breaking a hip. I've seen it all in the stores. And so I kind of help with our claims and our risk mitigation. So whenever we have claims, I kind of walk people through that, talk about documentation and things like that. So I'm excited to be on here, and I can't wait to dig into this webinar.
You said a lot of like hot words that I'm super excited to hear. So that's super awesome. One of the reasons, guys, I'm super excited to bring Zach and Chaz in on this is something that affects every business owner. So something that Chaz said was risk mitigation is something we overlook so easily. It's one of those moments that we need to prepare for the unexpected to happen, but we don't want to be in this constant reactive, emotional, scared phase. So not expecting the worst, but something you said is being prepared for what happens. So right before we jump into it, I want to give a few housekeeping items. Tonight's webinar is going to be recorded. We will be sending and posting the replay for everyone who's registered, and it will be up on our YouTube as well. Feel free to use the chat, please, to drop any questions as they come up. We will answer them as soon as we can. And please make sure to keep your videos and microphones off. Jeff, I guess you can have an exception if you want to throw your microphone on. But everyone else, please try to keep your microphones off. So now we're going to dive into it. I said it earlier on. It's something we all see. The internet, Facebook, TikTok, like I'm a doom scroller all the time. One thing I've noticed over the years with running my own business and business operators is like, I always see these things happen and I'm like, oh, it will never happen to me. Like, I remember somebody's entire salon got flooded and I was like, oh, like, thank goodness that wasn't me, you know? And honestly, it's easy to overlook it because as a business owner, we're so focused on our staff, our day-to-day operations, customer service, our revenue, keeping everything moving, keeping our staff happy. But what I've learned is that protecting your business isn't really expecting the worst. It's about protecting what we've created and what you've worked so hard to build. Like my brand new retail area. It was so beautiful. And that's why I'm so excited to have this conversation tonight. So Zach, Chaz, what would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions you see when it comes to like pet business owners, something that they thought was covered versus that wasn't actually covered?
Well, we see a lot of different things, but we right from the beginning we mentioned risk mitigation or risk management. A lot of new business owners or even existing business owners, they just look at their insurance policy and look at the bottom line and go, what am I paying today? I want to pay less. No one likes paying for insurance. I mean, I'm the insurance guy. I don't like paying my business insurance. I don't like paying my home and my car insurance, but it's really nice to have a thorough, good insurance plan when something does come up. But that's just a that's just a small part of the insurance industry. And even your plan as a business owner, a lot of it should really be based around preventing loss and making sure that your salon or your business or your dog daycare is ran professionally. It's ran safe so that your employees don't get injured. It's again ran safe so that the pets don't get injured in your care as well.
I was going to say one of the things that I've seen common misconception whenever we get new customers is, yeah, I talked to the agent down the street. General liability covers injuries to the pets, right? So we hear that all the time, and people just aren't familiar with how the policy language reads. So that's a common misconception that we see. Oh, general liability. If a dog gets injured while I'm grooming this dog, or the dog escapes and gets hit by a car, my general liability policy covers that. Zach, I
And
know
and
you've got a couple like that. Is there any other coverages that
I
you
hear that
see that?
every day. I mean, there's 1.5 million insurance agents across the nation that can write an insurance policy for a dog daycare, for a grooming salon, for a retail business. And if the agents aren't educated and know how the policy language and how the coverages actually play out in an incident, you can be left holding the bag and have zero coverage. I hear it all day, every day. Oh, my agent told me that the pets are covered under general liability, which is not the case. Oh, my agent, or I was under the impression that if a dog bit my employee, my liability policy is gonna pay for that. No, that's not the case. You need to have the proper insurance coverage. If one of your employees gets injured, or you as an owner operator get injured, you need to have compensation in place to protect them.
so can you talk about like what wording are we looking for? Because something that you both have said is general liability, and that sounds like a common misconception among the industry almost. And I would like to talk about that a little bit more of general liability is not the appropriate coverage for a pet care business. Can you guys break it down as to why?
Yeah, so general liability is a very important coverage that everybody in the industry should have. It's just not going to protect everything. So, like the baseline first policy that any business should have is liability insurance coverage or a general liability insurance policy. But that's not going to cover the pets. Pets are considered property. There's particular endorsements that should be included on your liability policy that extends coverage. So let's say you're running a dog daycare business. You should actually have a business owner's package, is what they call it, which consists of liability protection, property protection, and with that, there's several different endorsements that your policy should also have in that, which again, general liability insurance coverage. So, what is the general liability insurance coverage? The easiest explanation is it's going to cover the people. So, the people, as in your clients. A client walks in the door, slips and falls, and gets injured. The liability insurance policy, the general liability portion, is going to protect that person's injuries. A pet in your care. Well, the pets are considered property, so you need an animal Bailey's or an animal floater, which is coverage for those pets that are in your care. It covers their care, custody, and control. So essentially, it's the pets that are in your care, custody, and control. This is going to pay for the veterinary expenses or replacement of the pet if they're injured in your care. And then to take it a step further, you run a dog daycare business. Well, you might be a tenant at a facility and you spent money building out that facility, so you've done some tenant improvements coverage. You would want coverage for that. You also have a bunch of business property. So you might have kennels, you might have a retail section with a bunch of retail product that you want to have insured as well. Additional coverage under this category would be your business income protection. So if a car drives through the front of your
Mhm.
retail business and you're unable to operate for some duration of time, you've got some loss of revenue coverage, some insurance protection to cover your loss of revenue.
So I love what you said though, is that you need all these things. It's not just one. And that's why having a professional who knows about the industry that can look at your business, and all that it encompasses to make sure that you're fully protected. Like myself, like when the car went into my lobby, you know? Thanks for helping me with that one. So just really good points that I want to talk about. Another thing that I want to really bring up is I hear a lot of people think about the word claim and they jump to something like catastrophic. But a lot of these things can also be minor. They don't always have to be huge. At times, it's just having everything in place, your operational systems, your documentation. This is something that Chaz mentioned in the beginning, that like it is so important to reduce your risk. So, what are some ways that you could say reduce your risk within the pet business?
I could speak to that a little bit. Documentation is key, and policies and procedures are key to keep your business safe. So I'll give you an example of a recent one that we had where there was a dog daycare owner, and this dog daycare owner was doing, I think it was like a meet and greet with a potential employee. So this wasn't an employee yet. This was just somebody that they were interviewing. Took him around the dog daycare. That employee got bit, or not employee, I should say. That person got bit while they were back with the dogs. Minor bite, pretty superficial. Nothing kind of stood out about the incident. They didn't document it or anything. And then 2 years later, they got served with a lawsuit. And I think it ended up paying over $200,000 in that lawsuit. And, not being able to have, hey, here's the incident that happened. Here's the pictures of this superficial wound. Here's the time and date. Here's the security footage. All that kind of stuff helps protect yourself. And so those are the type of things that I've seen after an accident happens. You should be documenting it. But more importantly, what do you do? What procedures do you put in place? Do you ever introduce somebody to dogs in the back area? No, we need to update that procedure. Let's not do that anymore so we don't have that exposure. So that's kind of an example. Anything else you can think of, Zach, on that?
I want to jump off of that because you said some things that I really liked. Documentation. I don't. It does not matter whether you're a single owner operator or whether you're a multi-location. You need some level of CRM software in place. Kennel Connection has iDog Cam integration. Cameras are amazing. We have cameras in our salon, and I mean, what was insurance going to say? The building jumped in front of the car when it drove through our lobby? No. But it was also really nice to just reflect on it like, okay, we do have a camera. This is exactly what happened. This is exactly what was damaged. So everyone, you need to have SOPs, you need to have policies, you need to have procedures. That way, when an incident does happen, your team knows how to respond and when and where and how to document it. And photos, cameras, video recordings, all that is important. Like you need to have
Yeah,
all of that. Like
I had
so important.
a big one where cameras kind of saved this giant claim where this guy took a grape off the shelf and then put it on the floor and then pretended like he slipped and fell. And so when we went to court, we just pulled up the video and like, here's the guy setting the grape on the floor and pretending like he's slipping. Like, what are you going to say now? So yeah, documentation cameras are great.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I have one going on right now. It's an open incident where someone claimed that they got bit in the parking lot of the dog daycare, and really it was one of the employees who had their pet at at the facility, and she was leaving for the day. And when she came out with her dog off leash, and her dog ran up to the person in the parking lot, sniffed their hand, did not bite, and they have footage of it. And so that's going to prevent, and that's helping them fight the lawsuit.
yeah, I have a similar incident, but I don't know if I should talk about it. But we had somebody say that they got hurt, and I watched the footage, and I was like, "Can you tell me where this happened?" And I played the footage for them, and they were like, "Well, I don't know." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't see it. I don't think it happened." So cameras super important. If you don't have them in your shop, it's challenging because you have to make sure that you're abiding to whatever state laws you have. We're super fortunate that Indiana is like a single party consent state, so we just have our employees sign. So we really, really like it. Laura, for a kennel or doggy daycare, cameras would be a critical tool to protect your business. Yeah, everyone get a camera. Like, it's it's kind of silly to think about it because Sean went crazy with the cameras. Sean's my husband. And I saw this giant Amazon order come through with all these cameras. I was like, what are you doing? And then he was late at the shop one night and there's cameras everywhere. And I thought he was crazy. And there have been probably, since he's done that, at least half a dozen instances where those cameras have come in handy, including the freezers. So, because that was a whole nother thing, is that I could show on the camera that the freezers went out before my power went out.
Hey Mel, I have a quick thing to add to this. So something that we've learned, and this is Jeff. I'm the CEO and owner of Kennel Connection. We've been in business for 30 plus years, so talked to a lot of clients over the time and whatnot. And something that we've learned, regardless of what software you're using, doesn't even matter. This isn't about software. Um, there's a misperception in a way when there's been resistance for facility owners, regardless if you're a full-blown grooming, boarding, daycare, training, or just a grooming facility, that, hey, I don't want cameras because I don't want to have to give them to my pet parents and then, potentially have them creeping on the cameras all day long and seeing something they don't like and whatnot. But the advice that Zach and Chaz and Mel are giving right now is actually great advice and something that is what I believe a misunderstanding in the industry of cameras are actually, yes, there's a cost to them, but think about the things that they've just been explaining. The cost is mitigated so much if you have cameras. You don't have to share the cameras with your pet parents. That's a choice you can make, but to protect yourself in the event of something, the cameras may cost you a couple $100s a month or whatever it may be, depends on how big your facility is. But think about the protection that you'll have in the event of a claim that could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I just want to throw that out there because I've heard that from a lot of different facility owners over the years.
That's actually so interesting because I have cameras and I would never share them with my staff, or not my staff, with my customers. Um, so how much for the Kennel Connection camera system? So there's an integration with iDogCam. If you're interested in the Kennel Connection camera system, it's going to depend on, I believe, how many cameras you're going to want to purchase. Oh, Jenna's jumping in. 1995 for the integration. There you go. But again, I feel like I really struggle when I'm looking at cost of protecting my business. It's kind of priceless in so many ways because if you think of what could happen to all that you have built, your reputation, your building, and if you didn't have it properly protected, you know, then what? You're left standing with just nothing. So, but thank you, Jenna, for chiming in. I appreciate that.
And Mel, if
So,
I could add one thing that to Derek and anyone on the call, I just want to say this as the owner and CEO of Kennel Connection. We're not trying to pitch Kennel Connection. We're not trying to sell you guys on Kennel Connection at all. This is all about education for the industry. If you do use Kennel Connection, you're asking that question, we'll love to help you. If you don't use Kennel Connection, we're still telling you if your software integrates with iDogCam or another, get cameras. If you don't use software, still probably sound advice to get cameras. You don't have to, but this is just advice that the purpose of the educational webinar is to give you tips and tricks on how to, this specific slide, prepare for a claim. So sure, we love every client to use Kennel Connection, but the reality is it's not. And the reality is we're not trying to sell you guys anything. We're trying to educate you as an industry at large. So we can speak to what it costs for Kennel Connection, but we can't speak to what it costs for if you use Paw Partner or Mogo or Ginger or someone else. You'd probably have to ask them. But if you are a Kennel Connection user, we can definitely connect, separately. I don't want to turn this into a sales call because that's not the purpose at all.
Yeah.
you could just buy Google Nest cameras and then they just don't integrate with your CRM, but you could set up and pay a membership through Google or Nest. Like, bottom line is you should have cameras in your business, whether you're a retail, whether you're a grooming, whether you're a daycare, whether you're boarding, whether you're training. If you have employees and you have pets, you should have cameras. There's multiple different options out there. Protect yourself, and it's protecting what you've built. That's the most important thing.
It is, but also have standard operating procedures because, you incriminate yourself with cameras if you're not doing things right. We've seen a couple of those go the wrong way. So make sure you're doing things right. You're teaching and training, you're communicating with your people, and you're giving them, direction on when they're doing things unsafe. But yeah, cameras are a tool, but they can prove things the other direction as well. So you want to have good documentation, good standard operating procedures, and take care of your employees and teach and train them right.
Yeah, and that's something that's a little bit different, but I want to chime in on it. That's something that me and my husband are super passionate about is that, to build a good culture and a good workplace, you need to have clear expectations for your employees. To have clear expectations, you need to have clear policies and procedures. We do use the cameras at times for very rarely, but like if we notice that there was like an issue, we will reflect on a camera to use it as a coaching opportunity, to build those SOPs and make sure our staff is trained appropriately. So, very good point. It's a double-edged sword in some ways. I still am a huge advocate for cameras. So it's something I would definitely explore if you don't have any within your business. Just want to say it out there. So we're now on the preparation starts before a claim slide, which I actually really like because we have a lot of different things on here. We have the right insurance, which is super important. We also have staff training documentation we've talked about. We also have communication. So this is a huge one for me as a business owner. And we're kind of touching on it to where you need to make sure your staff knows what to do, but you need to also be able to give quick feedback and make sure that your team is all aligned when there's a change or when there is a policy update or when an incident happens. So making sure you have strong communication. Do you guys, Zach or Chaz, do you want to talk about like preparation before something bad happens? Like what other things should business owners be looking out for?
I say on the communication side to the point, if you have an incident that happens before it turns into a claim, if it was something that you observed that was unsafe, use that as a teaching moment. Have safety meetings, and like Zach and I, when we do quote policies, if we know that the person that we're shopping their policy for has regular safety meetings weekly, and that's important to them, then there's even like back end discounts that we can apply on their policy because they're doing these things that are going to help, reduce risk. So all these things in this page are great. Having the right insurance coverage is key too, because if you have a claim and you don't have the right coverage, well, then you're just kind of on your own. You're not, your insurance policy is not going to protect what you've worked so hard to build day after day after day. And you have this huge incident and you're just kind of left out there by yourself to figure it out.
Yeah, now with that said, in preparation of making sure your insurance policy is set up properly, you should be having detailed conversations with your insurance agent about your business. They should know how much you spent on your build out. They should know how much you've spent on the kennels, all your business property. They should know how many employees you have. They should know about your training program that you have for your staff. There's all the your agent should know everything through and through about your business so that they can put together the insurance policy that's going to protect you in the event something happens.
Okay, this really kindly like led into something I want to talk about myself because I love to talk about Barking Bone. Sorry, but just so everyone can hear some quick stories, is I met Zach and Chaz a couple of years ago through some trade shows, and I believe it was 2024 maybe. I was not using pet business insurance, and I had my freezers break, and I lost about $8,000 to $10,000 in inventory. I had to repair the freezers. It was a complete headache, and this is how I really built a relationship with Chaz, is because he guided me through my policy, told me what I needed to say, what I needed to document, and helped me get money back, even though it was like pulling teeth because I don't think I did have the best policy for a pet business with retail. So then as soon as that policy came up to renew, I went with Zach and Chaz. And then 4 weeks ago, I think today, I had a car drive through my newly remodeled lobby. Took out all our retail, and it has been, I don't want to say smooth, it's still been a giant headache. But it's been a much smoother process than before because I worked with Zach and Chaz to make sure that my retail was properly protected, because that was something that I think I might have been a little bit short-sighted back when we had our first policy. Um, so yeah, like you need to make sure that you fully disclose, your day-to-day operations, your staff, how much retail inventory do you have? I want to brag because I heard you mention it, Zach and Chaz. We never stopped operating. Even the day that there was a car in our lobby, we opened a different entrance and we kept operating as normal and still somehow had retail sales as well. Now, we did have a lot of damaged product, so there was a substantial amount of decrease in retail sales because we didn't have things stocked, but we kept operating. So we had no close days. How? I don't know. I can't answer that one. We stayed up super late, but it was really, really exhausting. We were told that we could not, huh?
I was just going to say on that also, there's, anytime there's a claim, it's a headache. But if you have the right representation, like Mel, your first claim, you didn't have an agent that was fighting for you, that was
Oh
providing
no.
advice on what to say, how to get through the claims process. And that's why it was such a nightmare and why it took so long for your freezer situation. Now, this incident, having Chaz involved through the claims process is night and day different. And going to be resolved really quickly. But also, Sean and Chaz have been able to work together to put a strategy to keep your business operating at its peak, even when you're reversing a car out of
I
your.
just I also want everyone to know this webinar was planned before the car drove into my lobby. But it was very exciting that and Chaz, you're on the West Coast and I'm in Indiana. I text him at like 9 a.m. my time, which is 6 a.m. California time. And I was like, hey, I have fantastic content for our webinar. And he's like, oh, really? What? And I sent him a picture of the car in my lobby. And it was crazy going through those texts of how quickly you went from like my friend to do this, do this, do this. And I was like, yo, you need to text Sean because I'm driving there right now and I don't know what's going on. But I think that's a really, Zach, that's a fantastic point because we had a different policy before we were with you guys, and it was very stressful. I don't want to say we didn't know what to do, because we're knowledgeable individuals, but there was no one guiding us through the process. We didn't know exactly what to say. We didn't know what wording to focus on. We didn't know what exactly to document. Now, we did our best, and Chaz jumped in and supported me as a friend, and we did end up getting our claim paid. I don't know the proper terminology here again, but we did get reimbursed for our lost product. But I think it was almost a year, or it was like 8 months. It was significant, and it was a battle versus, car goes into my lobby. It's been a headache. It's been a smooth headache for what it is because we have you guys kind of realistically holding our hand the whole way saying do this. You're fighting the battle with us. We're not going up to it alone. And that's why it's so important to make sure you have a insurance policy and a team that actually is towards pet businesses. I feel like I could call you, and I did. So super helpful. I'm trying to catch up on the messages here. Oh, sorry that you happened to me. It's fine. I mean, I went through all stages of grief, everyone. I laughed, I cried. I went home and ate a big bowl of ice cream. I did everything. Um, how
I
many?
saw something about like something pop up about a Florida professional liability. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Professional
Oh,
tools.
here we do. Okay. That's an interesting one. We were told that we could not get coverage for our professional tools in Florida.
Pretty common. Coastal communities, and Florida pretty much as a whole is considered a coastal community. So the insurance companies typically don't offer property insurance coverage in those states. So very, very common for people in the pet industry They may only have general liability and professional liability coverage. They don't have property insurance coverage. So coverage for your tools, equipment, the inventory, even animal Bailey's coverage. But what you need to do in that situation is make sure, depending on your business type, Rebecca, I'm not sure what type of business you have, but for most in the pet space, whether it's a grooming salon, a mobile groomer, or a dog daycare, they can. Rebecca just commented.
Grooming.
So what I'd recommend is you have a general liability with a professional liability endorsement on the insurance policy, and that's going to cover the pets' injuries if they're cover the pets if they're injured during a groom. But as far as your property coverage, so again, the inventory, your tools, equipment, it's really tough to find coverage for. You can find it, it's just significantly more expensive, or I should say, we can find it.
Jenna asked, do most insurance companies cover incidents that could happen during enrichments, such as offsite hikes, ball play, etc.?
Yes. Most the animal Baileys or animal floater coverage, it's a care, custody, and control. So if that pet's in your care, custody, or control, the that portion of the insurance policy is going to provide coverage. That's very common. Majority of those coverages read that way, and so it's not exclusive to at just only at your business location.
So you've said the word animal Bailey a couple times.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something, that I've heard a lot. I think a lot of pet care business owners hear, but like, can you break it down a little bit? What is it actually, and what horror stories could you like share one about someone who didn't have animal Bailey coverage?
I'll share one because I like the horror stories. uh, we had one. It was a mobile groomer that was grooming a dog. A very small operation. She was kind of like a single owner operator of a mobile grooming salon. She had a puppy on the grooming table, and there was the dryer that was kind of set on the floor, which policies and procedures don't set your dryer on the floor. Dog kind of jumped off the grooming table, landed on the corner of the dryer, and punctured his lung. So little puppy. So ended up in the emergency vet clinic for 7 days. The vet originally wanted to just suggest to put the dog down because they didn't think they were going to make it. And the owner of the dog showed up to the vet clinic like, absolutely not. We are not putting this dog down. You're going to do everything to save this dog. So 7 days in the emergency vet, and I think that one was a $11,500 vet bill that this mobile groomer, it would have probably taken a month or two worth of revenue to pay that back. So that's one horror story. Zach, I don't know if you have any of the other ones.
I mean, that's an example of the coverage. Other examples are two pets get in a fight during playtime at the dog daycare. Pet's injured, needs some veterinary attention. So this coverage, it covers the injuries to the pets, whether that pet is
So,
injured, dies, or escapes the front, escapes a hole in the fence at the daycare. It's going to pay for the veterinary expenses or replacement of the pet.
so like if you could kind of let's take it plain English. What's animal Bailey coverage? Like what it covers vet care, it covers as
It's
soon
a
as you
property. It's a property coverage. So the insurance
gotcha.
industry sees pets as property. So imagine you have, and it's an old term, animal like Bailey's coverage is like an old term for like a jeweler. So you have your wedding ring that you dropped off to the jeweler. Now that jeweler has possession of that ring. When that jeweler has possession of the ring, that ring is insured in his care, custody, or control. So in the same way, the dog that you take into your dog daycare or your boarding facility, you're taking care of that animal. If something happens, anything happens, and that's the difference on the Baileys versus the liability. I think there's a couple questions on the liability portion, but anything can happen. It's a property coverage, and if that happens, then the insurance carrier can pay for the replacement of the dog, the veterinary bills, and there's big ones. If there's a lot of dog daycare owners, there's been several stories of, you know, all the dogs dying in a fire, 40 dogs in a daycare facility, and a fire starts and you lose every single animal and you don't have this coverage, and and your owners are like, hey, what happened? Oh, sorry, I didn't have fire monitoring. I lost all the dogs and I don't have any coverage to help replace your dogs. Yeah,
Hey guys, can I jump in with a quick comment?
sure.
I was reading all these questions that are coming up, and they're great questions. Thank you, audience, for doing that. Um, there was and I just lost my train of thought. There was the question again about Florida. Zach, thank you for responding to that. But there was a question in regards to understanding, I don't think it said this, but in regards to understanding your policies, I can speak for both Zach and Chaz. Anybody that's out in the pet care industry, whether you have your insurance through Hartford or your corner insurance agent or your best friend or whoever it might be, feel free to email them a copy of what's called your declaration page, DEC for short. Send your deck pages over to them. They will for free review it and come back, review it, analyze it, dissect it, and send back to you exactly what you're missing or tell you straight up, you got a great policy, great coverage, keep doing what you're doing. And they'll also tell you straight up, hey, you got this hole, that hole, and you're missing this, missing that. If you would like us to give you a quote, we'd be happy to, but there's no pressure involved.
Absolutely.
That's
Thanks, Rick.
something that I really like. I see it with some Derek of would you guys be able to compare our current coverages and see where gaps are? And I have a note there, and we've touched on this a little bit, but Rick, you kind of you just said it like it never hurts to get your current policy evaluated to see if you have any existing gaps, because this is just reducing your risk, making sure you're prepared, protecting what you've built. And I think also as your business grows, it's important to revisit your policy and make sure it's updated. I would say we expanded to mobile, so we obviously had to update our policy, but that was because we had to add a vehicle. But even if you just add a different service, you go from grooming only to daycare, I would make sure that you communicate with, your insurance provider and make sure that any gaps that would evolve from there are covered. That's something good call out, and thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, and
Rick.
Linda, you touched on a really good point. As your business grows, your risk evolves as well. Things completely change when you're managing a team of 30 employees and the footprint of your dog daycare has grown substantially. One thing that we're seeing a lot of claims around are employment related lawsuits. So wrongful termination, harassment in the workplace. And so they're becoming more and more common. We're seeing them every single day. And so your risk does evolve, and the conversation with your agent isn't just a one-time touch base, and I haven't talked to him or her in 5, 10 years, whatever. Every single year, and even multiple times a year, you should be touching base as things change. Because again, uh, an owner-operator business is significantly different from that dog daycare that's 10 plus employees.
Those employment
So
practices liability lawsuits are not cheap. They're very expensive lawsuits.
So we're going on a path that I wasn't planning to talk about, didn't think of, but I kind of want to because you have a really good point. I talked about getting your policy evaluated as you expand, and I was focusing on like adding a new service, adding a new retail space, adding a van. Let's say you have your existing services and you're just growing. Would you say like is it with every single employee, or is it like once you surpass 5 and then once you surpass 10? Are there certain staffing numbers, I guess, you should evaluate a little bit more thoroughly? Am I making any sense here?
You are.
Um,
You are absolutely. You really have the risk with one employee all the way to 30.
right.
With that said, the insurance policy is going to be based on the actual risk that's involved as well. So, a cost for this employment practices liability insurance for one employee is significantly less expensive than when your business grows and now you've got 30 employees.
So should you have it evaluated every time you add an employee, or is it the same coverage, but it's just going to increase in cost whether you have one or five?
Mel, let me jump in for a sec. Number one, anybody that owns a pet care facility, whether it be grooming, daycare, boarding, training, whatever it is, you must, and it's mandatory, you must check in with your agent once a year. I hope that your agent is checking in with you. If they're not, you're with the wrong agent, but that's another story. But you need to check in with your agent every year and do a complete insurance review. I added employees. I bought additional tables. I bought additional vehicles. I put in retail. Whatever it is, I would assume that most businesses are on the path of growth and are looking to increase their business, increase the size, increase their revenue, increase their number of employees year after year. And if you are not in constant communication, when I say constant, minimum of once a year, if not twice a year, with your insurance agent, you're not doing yourself a favor. So whether you're whoever your broker is, your agent is, if they're not checking in with you, you need to check in with them and do a complete insurance review once a year.
Absolutely.
Well said. Your wife says I harass her. Well, my husband harassed me too. I'm just going to say he's the worst HR. Um, but what are the biggest mistakes pet care businesses make when managing employee related incidents? Okay, Zach and Chaz, you got to have a good story for this one.
Chaz.
Which one am I going to talk about? There's so many. I would say that you always want to kind of find out, and we'll say there's two big risks here. Work comp injuries, right? When your employee is injured on the workplace, if you have that incident, you should kind of stop what you're doing, care for that employee. If they need medical attention, you take them as an owner because, you can be there to advocate for them. You can be there as a business owner to understand the impact that it could potentially have on your business. And you want them to feel like they care. There's so many times where I see employees injured, especially, a dog bite or whatever, and they're just like, hey, see you later, go to the clinic, come back. That allows you the time, and maybe you're not in the room with the doctor, but after the employee comes back, hey doctor, how's my employee doing? Oh, they're doing good. That kind of gives you an idea of, okay, this is going to be okay. So be present, show that you care for your employees, because a happy employee is going to less likely bring you to the ringer and sue you for everything that they've got. So that's one example. Employment practices, liability, same kind of thing. If you're a manager or you have a manager that is acting on behalf of your business, you better make sure that you hold that manager accountable because they're kind of acting on your behalf. So if you have got a manager that's got questionable ethics, that is saying things that are off the cuff, that is intimidating people, or you're just waiting to be named in a lawsuit. And that's really what's happening with these employment practices liability lawsuits. They're happening, there's you can't even get like a standard carrier in California to offer the coverage because the lawsuits have been so big. And even though the manager has nothing to do with the business, they're acting on your behalf. Your business is at risk. So be careful of who you choose to manage your employees, and hold them accountable. If you see something that they're doing that's wrong, pull them aside, discipline them, document that discipline, keep it on file, and protect yourself. It's your business; it's not theirs.
Yeah, I think
the documentation. Love
yes,
it.
that's one thing I wanted to touch on. I think that that's a really big mistake that happens quite often is things don't get documented. They think, oh, it's just a small bite, my employees, okay, but there is no documentation, and then that employee becomes disgruntled, and suddenly it becomes a really big incident, and there was no documentation, there was no photos, there was nothing signed. Because at the day of the incident, the employee might be like, no, I'm fine to go back to work. Sure, I just went down to the clinic because that's what I'm supposed to do. But then a week later, there's a disagreement, and now you've got a disgruntled employee that suddenly is a lot more injured than they were a week prior when they may have gotten bit by a dog, for example.
Yeah, Sean asked a
Uh,
question, which I'm sure he probably already knows. It popped up, but what do you do? How do you document? You write it down. We typically will send out a recording form of the incident. So it's going to ask you things: when did it happen? Where did it happen? What were the contributing environmental factors? Take a picture of the incident. Save and download your video footage, and put it in a file and keep it for safe place because you don't know in 2 years if that's going to blow up into something. So document, write it down, save it in a file, save the pictures, save the video, save any employee statements that saw the incident happen, have them sign it, put in everything that you can about that incident is the best way for, think about when it does come to a lawsuit and an attorney has to sit there and defend you and you give them nothing to defend you with, it's going to be expensive. But if you're able to say, here's a picture of that superficial bite. Here's a statement where the employee overheard the other employee saying that they were fine. All that kind of stuff is the stuff that you want to save and put in a file.
Something I want to touch on there is there's a lot of minor incidents that happen within a grooming salon that may require medical attention, but don't require medical attention. Always offer it. Oh, you have this scrape from a dog, like, are if it's superficial, make sure to offer stop working and go get it looked at, and document everything, no matter what, no matter how minor it may be. Document everything. Where to write it down? We use Google Drive and Gusto for us. So write down everything. What I'm trying to get at is even if there is no doctor visit, still document it.
We used to call them John Doe or Jane Doe reports. Even if it's like a customer that walked into your lobby that slipped, same thing. I don't, maybe you didn't know who the customer was and they left, write it down on, July 9th, Jane Doe came in, she slipped, she said she was fine. Here's the footage that I saved of her slip. It's not a big deal. She didn't even fall. And then when she goes to sue you in 2 years, you just pull it up. Here's the, here's the
Yeah, so
evidence.
this is going to circle back. If there's one thing everyone takes away from this, invest in cameras and get strong documentation. Okay.
Well,
We
and
have a very
I want to jump in and say a CRM system also, because the documentation isn't just exclusive to employee management, though. It's also client management. And so if there's an incident that happens with a pet in your care, you can use your CRM system and document everything within that pet's file and have it stored in one safe, easy to reach place. So yeah, that's also a number of very highly recommended. Get a CRM system.
I
Hey,
just want to say
Zach,
that
I'm sorry, Mel. Can I just ask a question instead of typing it? Because I think it's important for everyone in the industry to think about in the future. You're talking about employees suing and you're talking about, the clients slip and fall and stuff like that. And that's all very important and it's great information. And a lot of people are always concerned about cost. One of my questions that I think is a great question for this entire group is, would it be possible, or has it ever been thought of, to mitigate costs by mitigating illnesses like kennel cough or whatever it might be with the dogs in advance? And where I'm going with that is there's some products out in the market now that you are actually testing the dogs when they come in and you're finding out everything medically about them. So if a pet care facility was doing that and spending X dollars to actually test dogs, would that mitigate costs or would that lower their overall exposure and the cost of their insurance overall?
Yes, absolutely. The policies and procedures or the standard operating procedures that a business has in place are going to help reduce risk, is going to also help reduce their overall insurance expense.
Yeah, and as an industry, right, the industries and the rates that you guys are paying are classified by your types of operation. So when everybody in the pet care industry complains about my insurance rates are through the roof, my insurance rates are going through the roof, that's because your industry has a specific digit code, and the insurance companies just measure their claims, and then they just raise the rate to offset that claim. And when a classification gets too expensive, you're just not going to be able to find a standard carrier, and you're going to pay 25 to 50% more. And that's why we're really passionate about educating the industry on kind of like insurance and risk management, because we don't want it to get there. There's other industries that you see that this happens where there's just too many claims, there's too much risk, and you can't find a standard like insurance carrier that's willing to write it.
Good question, Rick. And I know exactly what he's talking about because there's multiple, there's kennel cough, and there's also protecting your facilities from Giardia, and having strong procedures for when a new dog is coming in. Again, this is going to be documentation, whether it's testing their health, whether it's making sure that all their vaccines are up to date. All these things are going to play an impact on protecting your business. We have a very interesting question. I don't know if you guys can see this one. We are what is called a social justice enterprise. We hire people who need second chances, people who have had trouble with the law or just come from reduced or abusive backgrounds. Would you recommend any additional or different coverage for us? I think that's a very interesting question, and I would like to know your guys' thoughts there.
Absolutely. Number one, you have employees, so you should have a workers' compensation insurance policy, and that's going to protect you in the event an employee gets injured on the job, or claims they get injured on the job. And then number two, we've touched on it quite a bit, an employment practices liability insurance policy, because that's going to protect you as the employer against some employment related lawsuit, whether that's wrongful termination or harassment stuff going on between employees.
I was going to add to that too, and just understanding what your insurance policy covers. I mean, if people are people, I don't think you're going to get a different rating because you're hiring second chance people. But also, what does your insurance policy cover if somebody comes in and steals a bunch of credit card information, or what kind of coverage do you have for employee theft? What's your limit? Are you comfortable with that limit, or because you're hiring second chance people, maybe you want to increase that a little bit?
I really like that question. That was so different. Thank you for answering that. So, Jenna said, what safety training do you recommend to reduce employee related claims? So, I think this is going to vary business by business. I'll talk on it a little bit, and then Zach and Chaz, I'll have you guys chime in a little bit as well. We made our team get CPR pet certified, as well as we just train them on safe handling within pets. So I think this is going to fall back onto having clear expectations, SOPs for your staff. Like, we don't walk away from a dog that's on the grooming table. Every dog that's on the grooming table is in a grooming loop. If it cannot have a grooming loop, it's in a trach saver. Like, these are basic training and policies within our business that our staff is to follow. And how do we enforce this? Well, we're there. Well, Sean's there. And then also we have cameras to where if there's ever a problem, we can quickly say, like, hey, this is not acceptable. You need to make sure that this is what you do. This is our process, and correct the behavior. Zach, Chaz, any other input on that one?
There's some great vendors in the industry. We've seen some really great training provided by Pack Pro. Pack Pro training, they provide employee training, dog handler training for dog daycares primarily. But absolutely great resource. They themselves, the owners, got into this because they own a very successful dog daycare themselves. And employee safety is at the top of that one.
Yeah, I think you hit on the most important things, really, like teach or train your employees to, observe animal behavior, dog behavior. See a lot of dog bites. Teach them what to do when two dogs get in a fight. We had one where somebody stuck their finger in the mouth and lost a finger and picked it up off the floor of their dog daycare. All those kind of things, like don't break, that you can put and procedures that you can put in place are going to be key. And, things like lifting practices. We see a lot of, in the industry, we see a lot of dog bites. You see a lot of times where dogs run and clip somebody behind on the leg while they're playing. A lot of knee injuries, all those kind of things, that you can do to put into practice to prevent those types of injuries are key.
We have another question. Do pet business insurance policies have a statute of limitations in place to prevent an employee from suing that business after an incident occurred?
The statute of limitations is going to it's going to be state by state and insurance policy specific. So pet business insurance, we're an insurance agency that represents large we represent some of the big insurance companies like Hartford Insurance, Travelers Insurance, Liberty Mutual, CNA, Hanover, et cetera. We represent the insurance companies that will facilitate insurance policies to the pet grooming or to the pet industry as a whole.
And, if an incident happens, right, the first thing the insurance company is going to say is, when did this incident occur and was there active policy in place? So that's the first thing you're going to do. There's so many times where somebody's like, I'm buying an insurance policy because my employee is going to sue me from something that happened 2 months ago. You can buy that policy, but that's not going to be covered because the incident happened before your policy was in force. We get that frantic call every once in a while. I need a policy right now. Like, what happened?
That would be terrifying. I can't imagine. Well, everyone, we are at our time. And what I want to say, I want to close with our goal here wasn't to scare anyone. Our goal here is to empower everyone to protect your business. You can have a good business, you could have good policies, you could have good procedures, but make sure you also have good insurance, good CRM, good documentation to protect yourself. Something that was mentioned a little bit earlier, and we've touched on a lot, was the SOPs. You can share that with your insurance provider and see if you can get lower rates if you have something that reduces risk. And it was touched on earlier, like screening dogs before they come into your daycare facility. Pet Wealth is a new company that's now going to be able to overnight test for kennel cough, give you 24-hour results as a pet business. So that's a whole nother opportunity, revenue stream, as well as protecting your business that you can explore. So it's at Pet Wealth. If you have questions about your insurance policy, please don't hesitate to reach out to Zach and Chaz. We will be sending a recording post. It probably will not be out till next week. Any additional resources on Kennel Connection, Pet Wealth, pet business insurance, feel free to email us and follow up. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. Oh, wait, you mentioned training software for employees. Can you tell us more about the cameras and software? Pack Pro training, our Dog Handlers Academy. I would reach out to both and find who fits your company best. So you can call Pack Pro our Dog Handlers Academy. I know people from both and I admire them both, and see which one's going to be a better fit for your company. I think that's it, guys. No other questions. It's a Thursday evening, 9 o'clock here. Good night, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.